Welcome back for another video. We've just passed the halfway mark of the season now, but still a long way to go and lots of gains to be made. So let's have a strong 2025 using data from hundreds of top FPL managers, and if you're not already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on these every game week. Starting off with the manager highlight then, and Marcel's the top ranked expert heading into Gameweek 20 with an overall rank of 1.2k after scoring 81 points last week, which is also the average expert score in the league. The overall average was 66 points for comparison. Matthew Higgins got the biggest score of 107. Even more impressively, just 2 weeks before that he scored 101, so massive gains made over the last three. Marcel, you might recall, only activated his wildcard last game week as well, so he's in a really strong position. He's got 5 free transfers, wildcard's just been activated, and he's 1.2k with the second wildcard to go still. So, looking at the experts transfer plans, this week 41% are planning to roll, 48% making one transfer, and 10% making two. There's one wildcard active this week as well, which has been shared with us, we'll have a look at it later. Our second wildcard is available now. It's a big decision though to activate it. It's the most powerful chip in the game, so only use it now if your team's in desperate need, as it could be more difficult to maximise your points around the double game weeks later in the season otherwise. So which players are they buying and selling? The most bought and sold players this week are Wood and Cunha, 25% buying Wood, 27% selling Cunha. On the one hand, it's only a 1 league game suspension for Cunha, and he is the second top scoring forward, but on the other hand, Wolves have got a really brutal fixture run ahead, so you can see why they're going for it. Forest's fixtures are a bit mixed as well, but comparatively better. 11 goals and 1 assist in 19 games for Wood, having started the season at 6 mil. He's having a quality season. His best ever scoring season is 14 goals, which he's done twice, so he's 3 off that with half the season to go still. Only 7.13 XGI though, which actually ranks 11th best among forwards, but his finishing's been incredible, 32.4% goal conversion. Only Mbumo's has been higher in the entire league. The second most bought player is Gordon, who 18% of the experts are buying. He was someone that we discussed lots in the team selection video, as I've picked him up myself. He's got amazing fixtures ahead, including Spurs next, who are missing Vicario, Udogie, Van der Ven, Davies and Romero. He's only 7.4 mil as well, so he's actually cheaper than what he started the season at, despite being the 4th best mid for XGI this season. FPL is all about catching the right players at the right times, and that's not easy to do. Isak, Gordon and Hall were all terrible picks at the start of the season in terms of output, but right now everything seems to be clicking for Newcastle, and all 3 are amazing picks. 3% are buying Isak this week. Some other forwards of interest are Jackson, Rao and Mateta. Don't rule Jackson out as an asset just yet. His minutes were a bit ropey during the busy period in December, but they should look better now. Chelsea, simply put, just look better with him up top as opposed to Nkunku, and they've still got some good fixtures ahead with potential. Jackson to Wood, for example, could be sideways at best, unless it's funding an upgrade elsewhere. Brentford are up against Southampton next, and 4% are going for Mbumo, who now has 11 goals himself this season, plus 2 assists, which is really impressive. Only Palmer and Salah have got more goals among midfielders. After Southampton, they do have Man City and Liverpool. Man City, of course, not necessarily as tough as you think, but both are at least home fixtures as well. So, there is one wildcard active. Sean Coe has activated his as soon as it became available. His wildcard team is Sels, Valdemarson, Trent, Castagna, Gabriel Hall, Munoz, Eze, Palmer, Salah, Elanga, Rogers, Watkins, Isak and Wood. And he wrote a really comprehensive insight into the decision to activate it and the way he's picked the players he's picked. Here's what he had to say. The season started well and I was 84k overall after Game Week 13. However, ever since Isak was subbed out in the 21st minute against Crystal Palace, which triggered me to transfer him out, followed by a string of poor transfer decisions, I've been in freefall with 5 red arrows in the last 6 game weeks, down to 322k. With the second wildcard now available, I've decided to use it as early as possible to salvage the season and to rectify my poor transfer decisions, which included the likes of unreliable picks like Digne, Estupinian and Evan Nilsson, and rashly transferring Wood out on the weekend, Liverpool blanked, and Forest played Man United, and of course transferring out Isak, and getting back on the Isak train fairly late, missing his hat-trick against Ipswich, and Jackson, his replacement, being unable to match Isak's red form. With Cunha's fixtures turning and out suspended, Rogers also suspended, and a very thin team overall, and might as well play the wildcard now. The wildcard's focus is to get in as many nailed-on players as possible to form the base and having sufficient coverage for the punts, as well as capitalising on teams with strong upcoming fixture runs. Having had no Forest players previously, and with half the season gone, I think it's worth tripling up on them, given that their players are cheap and that Champions League football is a very realistic target for them now with the second half of the season. So Sells comes in to cover the Forest defence, Wood for the attack, and Elanga's in for now given his form the last couple of game weeks, which could be moved on for Ahmad if United turn good, or any other midfielder in that price bracket in the upcoming weeks. The wildcard is also an opportunity to get Trent in, as he's finally starting to get attacking returns, and to just remain with him and Salah for the rest of the season as the two best Liverpool picks, with the third Liverpool slot potentially for slot when the Liverpool double is announced. In other areas of defence, I missed Hall's recent hauls, but he looks very nailed in that Newcastle team now, and with the Magpies in very good form now, I think there's no harm getting him. I had Gabriel and Munoz before, so they stay in the wildcard team, while Castagna offers a cheaper alternative to Robinson for Fulham's decent run up until Gameweek 28. By then, if Tete is back and reclaims the right back slot, at least it coincides with their fixtures turning. In midfield, nothing has to be said about Salah and Palmer. Rodgers to me is a seasoned keeper and a mainstay in that Villa team. For such a cheap price, he's an absolute bargain. Eze is in for Palace's strong upcoming fixtures and he's the main talisman for Palace. I just favour him over Sarr, despite being a bit more expensive. Elanga's place in the team will probably be the midfield spot that moves the most if he shows sign of slowing down or start to losing his starting place in the Forest team. In attack, Isak's the best forward option right now, and Wood's an integral part of Forest team, now vying for Champions League football. Wildcarding now allows an opportunity to take a punt on Watkins, especially if Leicester this week and Duran out. If Watkins performs strongly against Leicester, he could make a case for himself to reclaim that starting spot when Duran returns. Otherwise, for 8.8 million, the money can easily be moved into midfield after the Leicester game. With the wildcard play, the goal is also to accumulate 5 free transfers with the next 4 to 5 game weeks, so as not to rely on unnecessary points hits, and to approach future double game weeks and chip usage. Making transfers nearly every week and not saving free transfers has been another mistake I made in the first half of the season. The art of doing nothing is the toughest thing to master in FPL most of the time. I also need to remember going into the second half of the season to not disassemble the structure and plans that I've made for my team after this wildcard. It is easy to be very reactive in FPL and to make rash decisions because everyone else is doing it, or when a key player gets injured, Saka for example. Ultimately, every single player that is picked in a wildcarded team were picked for a reason, and it's easy to adopt recency bias to forget the underlying basis for past decisions made for long-term objectives, something I need to bear in mind for the second half of the season, so as not to have my team in freefall again. Thanks very much Sean, and best of luck on the wildcard. On to Experts Captaincy for Gameweek 20, and we'll keep it very short and sweet again. This week there's complete consensus with 100% going for Salah. It's frightening going against him right now, and some of the best form the league's ever seen. More so when opportunities like Palmer last week weren't rewarded with even a single return, when even without hindsight it looked okay to go Palmer last week. So what do FPL review projections look like this week? Well, it is Salah top this week with 8 projected points against Man United, and then it's Haaland on 7.8, and then it's Watkins, Palmer and Isak. Are any of you captaining anyone other than Salah, or are we all going for Salah this week? Next segment then, the Experts Team for Gameweek 20. A few changes to the team. In goal it's unchanged with Raya. It's a back four of Robinson, Trent, Gabriel and Hall. In midfield it's Palmer, Gordon, Salah and Sarr, and up front it's Isak and Wood. On the bench Fabianski, Rodgers, João Pedro and Greaves. So Gordon and Sarr join the team this week, although the percentages are very tight for midfielders, and Nabumo, Ahmad and Semenya not quite high enough to break in. That Rodgers suspension really painful with a fixture that could promise lots of goals, and it was the final game he needed to avoid a yellow card last game before it extends to 10 yellows for a suspension. In Liverpool and Everton's case, this is their 19th game and it's their final match to avoid a 5th yellow. The players at risk there are Darwin, Gakpo, Gravenberch, Keane, Tarkowski and Pickford, all on 4 yellows. Jackson's actually 3% higher owned than Wood, but Wood's in the team to keep the team within budget. Solid looking team this week. Finishing up with some final experts' thoughts and tips for Gameweek 20, here's what they had to say. Fish and FPL Chips is thinking of going for a captaincy and says, if I see a near 100% captaincy for Salah, I'll go for Haaland. No risk, no gain. Guido Batista says, finally sold Saka. Gordon's been consistent over the last few weeks, so I'm hoping that continues, especially now as you pretty much gain nothing off Isak. Wood also comes in for Cunha's ban, injury or bad fixtures. Sellers can use whichever reason they want to justify it. He has been a hero for whoever jumps on him early with the Haaland to Salah swap. I'm sure he comes back in towards the end of the season at some point again. And lastly, the Doc FPL says, did I win FPL in 2024? No. Will I win FPL in 2025? Also no. Happy New Year everybody. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to follow this series for the second half of the season to help you get those green arrows and move up your mini leagues. We'll be live right here for a deadline stream Saturday morning as well. See you all then.